undefeated superstar ever here.
You were until Breaker beat you.
You are the Tatanka of the ECWA.
All right, enough.
All right, sorry. Breaker Morant whips Wylde. Beautiful clothesline.
Is there a merch table where I can buy a mask like Chris Wylde?
I believe so.
I have to
Somewhere
hope
over
so.
there, unless they sold out.
If nothing else, Halloween is coming up. I'm sure you can get one at a costume store.
Breaker Morant's just a house of fire here.
You know, what's funny is normally you see somebody like Joel Blackheart hide behind one of the wrestlers, not the other way around.
Well, it certainly is a unique strategy. We've never seen Chris Wylde employ this before. One thing I will say about Breaker Morant, Phil, is he hasn't been making a lot of friends lately, you know? I mean, he's been breaking a lot of hearts at the Academy, you know? He's been absolutely just destroying the talent on a week-by-week basis.
Oh!
You know, I've had my differences with him, but I've always respected the man. So I really don't want to cause any more problems than what's already been done. Unlike you, who loves to cause problems.
I'm not trying to cause problems. I'm just saying Breaker Morant has been up and down the showcase roster.
Well, while you guys were talking, Chris Wylde just delivered quite the wild pitch at Breaker Morant's head through the ropes.
And of course the veteran prevents the count out, rolling into the ring and then back out. It'll be interesting to see how the dynamics of this match have changed after that exchange outside the ring.
Almost looked like they landed on somebody out there.
I hope so. There's a lot of ugly people at ringside over there.
Well, I mean, you know, I'm from New York. This is Jersey. What do you want?
We do miss the barriers, that's for sure.
That's a good point.
Snapmare. Wylde hits the ropes. And the chin lock.
See, now that's something very smart that Chris Wylde just did. Now, Breaker, I'm sure, was expecting Wylde to hit him with something. And he bounced off the ropes, and instead of hitting him, unexpectedly goes in for the lock. You know, like stopped dead in his tracks and dropped right down to Breaker Morant.
Suplex by Wylde, trying to knock the wind out of Breaker Morant, paired with the chin lock. You got to wonder if he's trying to cut off that oxygen supply, make it tough for Breaker to breathe, and then who knows? I mean, maybe the Cinderella Man can cash in tonight.
Well, Chris Wylde is fairly short in stature, and you know, you're against somebody like Breaker Morant. Breaker Morant's a pretty big guy. You know, he's got to chop down a tree essentially. You know, he's got to take half of Breaker Morant out from under him.
Wylde with this series of vicious knife edge shots, but Breaker Morant is not done with him.
And since we're looking back on, you know, past events of the ECWA, you'll recall that Breaker Morant was the man who basically the first member of the Blackheart, you know, group. You know, he was under a mask attacking people, finally revealed himself and basically said, the only man, you know, the man who brought me back and you know, the one who's leading this whole group of Blackhearts.
Sure.
As you know, Joel Blackheart, who at the time was known as Joel Goodhart.
Yes.
You know, so it was. Now you have them on opposite sides here, which is what caused Breaker Morant in the very beginning to be so hated. You know, like there was no discrimination as far as who he attacked.
Yeah, definitely. Breaker Morant was the leader of Blackheart. Kind of started it all, as you said.
It's so ironic to see Joel Blackheart, just toying with Breaker.
And you know, I really can't say anything bad about Mr. Blackheart because he's managed me.
That's something bad I could say about him. I'm kidding, it was a joke.
Gotta watch yourself. I keep telling you this.
Wow. As far as experience with Joel Blackheart, Breaker Morant was in both incarnations of Blackheart. If you remember, they died down a little bit, and then they came back.
Yes.
bigger, and as one of the members, I believe, said bigger and blacker. Yeah, you remember?
Yeah.
And it was a shock to everybody when they got everybody else back together. They had the Order of the Black came in. You had the Montserrat 2 come in.
God, so many names from the past. It's like a school reunion here almost.
They were definitely the most dominant faction ever in this company.
Wylde's got Breaker locked in that stretch hold. I can't see over the kid trying to stand up in front of me. My apologies, folks. The monitor's out right now.
Very Ultimo Dragon. Tell you, I used to go nuts when I used to see this submission on television.
Well, it really is a beautiful thing, and Chris Wylde has been so athletic tonight. He's been all over the place. I've never seen Chris Wylde this driven.
Oh, ever since he came back to the company. He was in a feud with Joe Gacy. Now feuding once again with Breaker Morant.
Sure.
He's looking to make a statement. He changed his whole look, as I said earlier.
Breaker sidesteps the top rope drop kick there, ducks the clothesline, ducks the elbow, hits a back elbow of his own springboard.
I'll tell you, whenever I think of the ECWA Mid-Atlantic Championship, I do think of the Heart Killer Chris Wylde. That to me, those two things kind of were synonymous.
Yeah.
Especially my era when I was really here on a regular basis. It was Chris Wylde is the, you had the heavyweight champion that Papadon pretty much dominated, and then you had the Mid-Atlantic Championship where Chris Wylde was kind of the face of that.
And who could forget all the special appearances that Chris Wylde would do, bringing the Mid-Atlantic title to the kids, bringing it to wherever. Everybody was in high demand of Chris Wylde, because Chris Wylde lived and breathed this company.
That title was his badge of honor. That was his pride and joy. It was like a child of his own. And he took everywhere, showed it off. Look what I have. This is amazing. This means everything to me.
And he's another one that refused to believe that he never lost the title, actually. He never submitted either. He was never pinned for it. They just took it from him.
Well, if he reclaims it here tonight, I don't think it'll be quite the same Chris Wylde with such a change in attitude. It's like a totally different guy. The last 7 years, the way Chris Wylde has been versus the Cinderella Man that we're seeing here tonight.
Well, you heard him before the match. He mentioned Azrael and Bobby Shields, and he said, whoever wins, it doesn't matter, because that's the next thing on my...
Yes.
That's the next thing on my list. So he's almost looking at this, it seems, as I might as well. I have the opportunity. I might as well pick up this belt on my way to the World Championship, to the Heavyweight Championship. He doesn't care. It's like, all right, yeah, fine. I'll add this to my collection, but that's my target.
You don't doubt it. And Breaker Morant, by the way, in the meantime, hit just absolutely compacting the spine of Chris Wylde off the top turnbuckle. Now it's a matter of who gets to their feet first. Whoever it is, it looks like Wylde, the Breaker right there. That's going to be the person quite possibly to capitalize on this match. Breaker charges. Wylde sidesteps hits the super kick. A devastating, and then a code breaker to follow up. Breaker Morant right now, I think, is out cold. Cover, hooks the leg. 2.
Oh, and Chris Wylde used to lay everyone out with that super kick.
The most amazing thing about Chris Wylde's super kick is the height at which his foot goes, because he kicks higher than his own head.
Yes.
And it's really amazing. Some guys hit about level, some of them go a little bit lower. I've never seen somebody relative to their size kick so high.
Catches him.
A lot of momentum brought him back.
Fireman's carry, but Wylde out the back. Face plants him. I've been kind of scanning the record books, trying to find somebody that wrestled with the kind of intensity of like a Papadon or a Chris Wylde over the years. A couple of names came to mind, but nobody quite the same,
I'm trying to think now, somebody who was, that dominant in a ring. I mean, you gotta look at Azrael as the Mid-Atlantic champion. He was
Sure.
extremely dominant. He was one of, if not the most dominant.
Uh-oh,
You know,
as Breaker's going
And
for the
has
icebreaker.
continued his momentum. Yes, icebreaker, cover. 1, 2.
Hey!
oh, come on.
And that's where Joel Blackheart comes.
Oh, wait a minute.
I think we have a disqualification.
Did Joe Blackheart just cost Chris Wylde the Mid-Atlantic title? He shot?
Do you know why? Because Joel Blackheart doesn't think of the repercussions for other people. And apparently, he didn't think of the repercussions for himself either.
Well, I don't know that he thought he would get disqualified. I thought it would just distract the referee long enough to allow Wylde to, what's this? He's got the belt.
Now he's telling Joel Blackheart to hold Breaker Morant up. Oh, man.
Right between the eyes. The clock has struck midnight, Phil.
And here comes the rest of the referees to try to break this up.
Cinderella Man has found himself sitting on a pumpkin.
Man, metal on skull.
Couple mice around him.
I don't know. I still think Joe cost Chris Wylde the match. If I was Chris, I'd be upset.
But you know what? Like I mentioned earlier, and like Chris Wylde mentioned before in the match, this may have been just a, hey, if I can do it, I'll do it, but I'm not focusing on this.